Our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, uswatun hasana, the best and the most pristine of all human examples, the most heroic of all heroic people, the best in model, in character, the best human being ever set foot on this earth. Our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, during his, when he was quite young in his 20s, he, as you might know, he set up, or he was participant in the Hilf al-Fudul, this treaty of veneration, this treaty of goodness, because it was helping outsiders coming into Mecca who were sometimes victims of injustice. So when the man came into Mecca in that particular occasion, at that time before the treaty was enacted, the man came into a new place. He had no ally, no tribe, no protectorate in Mecca to vouch for him. And he wanted to make a deal, some trade with the people of Quraysh, who had a reputation for honesty and decency and goodness. But when he goes in, the people of Quraysh, they betray him. They betray him. They didn't give the man his money. They didn't give the man his money, and so they said, after the season of the Hajj is over, we will give you the money. And then he went and they said tomorrow, and then he went, and then they said, why don't you come back tomorrow? And then they went, they said, come back next week, and then come back next month. And each time he was going, he realized these people are treacherous, and so he used lyrical verse. He used his tongue, he used poetry to lampoon those people, that they're dishonest and treacherous and they're not good people. When our Prophet heard about the predicament of that individual, and he was only in his 20s, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and some other people, they all gathered in the house of Abdullah ibn Jud'an, and the whole purpose behind it was to enact a treaty that would stand to implement social justice, so that anybody who comes into Mecca from outside of Mecca, and he has no tribe, no ally, no one to vouch for him, will find us there for him, to vouch for him. And they enacted this treaty. The beautiful thing is that later on, when our Prophet became Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he famously said that if I was asked today to honor the treaty of the Hilf al-Fudul, I would do that. And I would never give up my place in that house where we gathered 5, 6 of us for anybody. It was honoring a treaty based upon social justice. And like that, the case of Mut'im ibn Adi, that mushrik for his own loss, mushrik. But in any case, how much he helped the Prophet of Allah during the Prophet of Allah's times of difficulty, helping to lift the boycott, sending food, Mut'im ibn Adi. But the Prophet of Allah recognized that, so that in the Battle of Badr, when those 70 prisoners of war were present, what did he say, sallallahu alaihi wasallam? لو كان المطعم ابن عدي حيا. If Mut'im ibn Adi was alive today, he had died, if he was alive today, ثم كلمني في هؤلاء النتنة لتركتهم له. And he asked me about releasing these 70 filthy people, I would have done that for him. I would release them, lahu, for him, just as a respect because of what he did for us before. This obligation that is upon us as Muslims, my dear brothers and sisters in Islam, about fulfilling the needs of people, is from our obligation to establish justice. Fulfilling the needs of people. In our world, we all have needs. There are people who have needs. There are people who have hunger needs. There are people who have health problems in their lives. Other people have domestic issues. People have all kinds of problems. And let us take a look and just see very briefly how those great people before us saw that obligation to establish and fulfill the needs of other people. Hassan al-Basri, he would say, rahimahullah, لَإِنْ أَقْضِي حَاجَةً لِأَخٍ أَحَبُّ إِلَيْ مِنْ أَنْ أَعْتَكِفْ سَنَةً أو شهرًا. He says, for me to walk with my brother in his need, to fulfill my brother's need, is more beloved to me than spending the whole month or the whole year in i'tikaf. In i'tikaf. You know, in the month of Ramadan, perhaps the most rewardable act of worship is to spend those last 10 blessed nights in the month of Ramadan in seclusion in the house of Allah. And may Allah bless us all with that opportunity this coming Ramadan by His mercy. But think what he's saying here. He's saying for me to walk with my brother in his need and to fulfill my brother's need is more beloved to me than spending the whole month or the whole year in i'tikaf. Think about the reasons why he's saying that. You know, what happens if one man has a need? If there is a grandfather and he has a need, who is it going to affect? It's going to affect his son to begin with. Because the son is looking at the father with honor and respect and reverence. That's my dad. Who else would it would affect? His wife, who looks upon her husband as a man of decency and honor and respect and value. It would affect his children. It would affect the whole nucleus of a human family, a Muslim family, if one person's needs are not fulfilled. They would say things like, لَمْ يَبْقَى مِنْ لَذَّةِ الدُّنْيَا إِلَّا قَضَاء حَوَائِجِ الْإِخْوَانِ. They would say things like, nothing remains anymore of the sweet taste of this dunya other than fulfilling the needs of our brothers. One was asked, أَيُّ الدُّنْيَا أَحَبُّ إِلَيْكَ? Which dunya, part of dunya, is most beloved to you? He said, Al-Ifdal al-Ikhwan, preferring your brother, giving preference to your brother, giving preference to your brother, preferring others to yourselves is from the most beloved act to Allah. The Ansar in the Quran were mentioned in the Quran, in the noble book of Allah, on this point. وَيُؤْثِرُونَ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِهِمْ وَلَوْ كَانَ بِهِمْ خَصَاصَةٌ. They preferred others to themselves even though they were in need. وَمَنْ يُوقَ شُحَّ نَفْسِهِ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُفْلِحُونَ. And whoever can overcome the stinginess of himself, then they are the successful people. This is how we are a great people, my dear brothers and sisters in Islam. We learn in this deen to put self-sacrifice over self-interest, and to put frugality over greed, and to put contentment over extravagance. One of them once, he fulfilled the need of his brother, of a Muslim, somebody in need. And then Bakai began to cry. And they asked, Ma yabkik? Why do you weep? Why do you cry? وَقَدْ قَضَيْتَ حَاجَتُهُ. And you fulfilled the man's need. Why do you cry after you fulfill the man's need? Look at what he said. Look at what he said. حَيْثُ أَحْوَجْتَهُ إِلَى مَسْأَلَتِي. I cry because of the fact that he felt the need to come and ask me for help. That's empathy. That's empathy. I cry because he felt the need to come and ask me for help. Imran bin Hussein rahmatullah alayh, he said, وَلَا قَضَيْتُ حَاجَةً لِأَخٍ. I never fulfilled the need of anybody. إِلَّا رَأَيْتُ لَهُ الْفَضْلَ عَلَيْهِ. Except that I saw that that man is better than me. That man has a virtue over me. And here he was asked, why? How could that be? If he is the one who is in need, how could he have the virtue over you? He said, حَيْثُ جَعَلَنِي فِي مَوْضِعْ حَاجَتَهُ. Because he put me, in essence, Allah put me in a situation of fulfilling his need. It was not seen as taklif. It is not taklif. It is not a burden. If someone asks you for help and you go and help them in any measure, whether it's carrying someone's heavy bags, or it's helping someone with their clothing, or it's buying someone clothing, or it's feeding the poor, or it's giving advice, or it's just wrapping your arms around someone's shoulder in this act of warmth and merriment just to make themselves feel better, or it's tending to the needs of the disadvantaged. This, interestingly is enough, this week is Autism Awareness Week, or Autism Awareness Month even, where a lot of the world come together and they remember the needs and think about how to fulfill the needs of children who are born with autism. A need, a neurological disorder where they become needy and parents are then in need. They struggle learning how do we deal with children who have this mental illness. How much help then do they need from us as Muslims to advise them, to help them, to assist them, to be close to them, to give them warmth and empathy, to try our best with them. One of them, Mutarraf bin Abdullah rahmatullah alayhi, he said to all of his people, إِذَا كَانَتْ لَكَ إِلَيَّ حَاجَةٌ. If one of you has a need, فَلَا تُكَلِّمْنِي فِيهَا. Don't tell me what your need is. Don't speak about your need. وَلَكِنْ اُكْتُبْهَا إِلَيْهِ. But write down your need on a piece of paper and then hold it up so I can see what you've written on your piece of paper. Don't speak to me about your need. but write it down on a piece of paper, then hold it up, and I will read what your need is. Why? Why? Look at the empathy here, my dear brothers. Rahmah, mercy, rahmah. He said, فَإِنِّي أَكْرَهُ أَنْ أَرَى فِي وَجْهِكَ ذُلُّ سُؤَالٍ فَإِنِّي أَكْرَهُ أَنْ أَرَى فِي وَجْهِكَ ذُلُّ سُؤَالٍ. Because I hate to see on your face humiliation of having asked of me. I hate to see your face under so much pressure and humiliation to ask me to fulfill your need. And so just write it down for me, then I will give you whatever you require. Our Prophet, my dear brothers, he said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Man kana fi hajati akhihi kana Allah fi hajatihi. Whoever is there fulfilling the need of his brother, Allah will fulfill his need. May Allah fulfill all of our needs. May Allah send His peace and blessings in abundance upon Allah's most beloved, our most beloved Muhammad ibn Abdullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa ashabihi wa sallam.